Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Meeples Champs channel. It's nice to have you in. We are going to be in the next few videos covering a game that I've been waiting for 5 years to get, Day Night Z. But before we start on this first section of the coverage, we are going to give you some important pages within the manual and how they relate to the different aspects that you're going to see in this video. First and foremost, the symbols are in the glossary on page 64. The survivor prep page is on page 6. The leader page is on page 6 also. And additional rules are on page 28. This covers stuff like the day and the night rules within the game, which is important. The backpack information is on page 44. The markers and random tokens are on page 46. And with regard to the dials on your player board, you can find the information and how they work on pages 28 and 29. And those pages will be important, and I put them in the front of the video so that you can easily reference them without having to go back through the video and look to different areas that I might be referencing then. So with that in mind, we're going to go forward and we're going to go through the player boards and some other aspects of the character that you're going to play. And this is an example of one of the player boards. This is Shigura Kenji. In The Walking Dead, this character would be Glenn. There are characters that would remind you more of other characters in The Walking Dead, but we won't get too much into that. It's not that important right now. What we will do is we will go across the front of this board and when we look at the brief part of the back in order to give you some better knowledge as to what you might expect to do and use while on this board. As we begin to look at the player board, we'll start on the left hand side or the top side of the board. We have here the two hands, his right hand and his left hand. We're looking, obviously it's the opposite way around because we're looking at him, but in this he has a strong hand in the right hand and he has a weaker hand in the left hand. This is denoted by the fact that he is -1 for ranged and -1 for melee. That's to give you the more realistic thing that not everybody is as strong with both hands, obviously. In the center we have here something that denotes when we are going to have a weapon that requires two hands, which is fairly standard in some of these games. You put that weapon in there, you can no longer use your individual hands then for something else. There are characters in this game who will have a power that allows them to be ambidextrous, but that is not the case, I don't think, for Shigura. As we move on to the other side of the board, what we have in the middle here is the area for which covers the head, the body, the arms and the legs. This would be for suits that you could possibly wear during the game or different items of clothing. Those will be designated by these symbols on what parts they cover once you have them on. If we look up the top here, we have a list of all the different traits as they relate to the different things that you can do. So in the very first one here we have melee. In the second one across here is ranged. Here is defense. The next one is agility. Just a guy doing a karate kick. The next one is strength. The one on the lower here is perception. The next one is will. And the next one is first aid, and the last one is mechanical. Okay, you will notice that we have letters in day and night here. We have yellow and white. Obviously during the day things are a little easier, a little better. It's a better time during the game. So the numbers in yellow did denote the day dice that you get, and the numbers in white denote the nighttime dice that you get for these different attributes. As we move down the board, we have our health, our stress, our infection rate, and of course our survival points on the last dial here. What we can in regards to the health here, We also have another little number which is difficult to make out because it's difficult to see from this angle, but the first number at top is your actual total health, and inside this number is a smaller number which relates to the number of actions that you get during your turn. As this dial goes down and you lose health, you see you go down to 9. That number is 4 to begin with for Shigura, and you move down and you get out of the green zone. We have 7, and then all of a sudden we get into the yellow, and we are down to 6 and 4, which is the actions. 5 and 4, 4 and 4, and now we start going into the red zone, which is 3 and 3, and then 2 and 3, 1 and 3, and unfortunately if you reach the skull, you are dead. Okay, so every character will start at their maximum health with maximum influence, or sorry, their maximum amount of actions. Below that we have stress, and stress just increases as does everything else as you get stress things all the way up, and depending on the character it goes all the way around. You go through the yellow phases up to the red phase. There is no action related stuff here, and it goes all the way up to 15. Once you reach 15, and this is important, if you get any more stress, that will directly come off of your health. So if you're at 15 stress and you get 2 more stress, you then have to take 2 off your health. You can die in 2 ways relating to these dials. One, if your infection rate reaches the maximum, or if you reach the skull as it relates to your health. The stress will help to that, get you up there a lot quicker. If you are anything that comes for stress or health goes on to your health once you reach maximum stress. And the same applies to the infection rate. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, and death. Okay, you turn that around as is denoted by the cards that you choose. All right, and down here finally we have our survival points, and this is kind of like the currency of the game. You want to get survival points and do better. You can use these survival points then to get and buy and do different things during the game, which we will cover at a later stage. But we start at 0 or whatever is denoted by your starting conditions. On the bottom of your player board, you have two ways that you can start. For some of them, some I think you only can have 1, but in relation to Segura, what you have are 2 different options with your starting equipment. So option 1 is a level 1 skill, which is denoted by these cards here. There's 3 of those. Level 2 skills there is 2 of, and a level 3 there is 1 of. That is pretty much standard throughout the decks for all the different characters. You are going to use backpack side B. You're going to take a knife and a flare. That is the option 1, or you can choose option 2, which is level 1 skill, taken from this as well. A backpack B, a knife, and a lockpick. Okay, at the start of everybody's turn, you will take your player board, you will take your character, you will take your little token, which will denote when the character goes into a building, or if you flip this over, if you die, there's a little X on the character token that denotes where the character has died on the board. Okay, at the start of the game, you also take your action tokens, and these denote as you take your actions, you flip one over every time you take a turn or you take an action, and until you're all done, and that is your turn over. This will be reduced once your health is reduced to the point where you get to that stage. We'll just show you really quickly for Shigura, he has 3 starting cards, and based on what we see up above here, he will take either the lockpick and a knife or the flare and a knife. So those are your options. Okay, those are your starting equipment. Once starting equipment is done with, or you lose it or it's gone, it goes back into the box. It does not go back to as part of the main options. The leader is decided in the following way. First of all, the person with the most leadership points, which is denoted on some of the cards that you can get through allies, and the more allies you have, sometimes the more it means you have more leader points. If those are tied and everybody is the same, it goes to survival points, the person with the most survival points. And in the event that those are tied up to 1 and 2, the third way is it can be decided randomly. In a game of survival horror like this really doesn't denote much more than, it could have been used more, but it doesn't denote right now much more than a tiebreaker really in a decision-making aspect during the game. We will just show you now some of those potential leadership points that you can get on the ally cards. So right down here at the very bottom, which is very difficult to point out, you can see these symbols here, the one on the right or on the left of each. In this case here, there's a +1 leader. This one here, this ally doesn't offer you any, and this ally actually takes away some points. That comes down to the type of ally that they are. So Master Armor is giving you +1. An Undertaker gives you net neutral in regards to leadership points. And rightfully so, a Thug, whilst a good ally to have, actually offers you -1. So you can actually end up being negative leadership points. So, as regards to the backpack, we have the B side, which was denoted by the opening options, which is backpack B that we would use. There is a backpack A, which holds 11 objects, and backpack B, which in this case holds 8 objects. Here you have your batteries, your bullets, and your supplies. And a combination of these can't exceed this number here to keep in your backpack, but this is what you can carry in your backpack, and that's to keep a track of what you've got there. To keep a track of that, what we have is little tokens here. They're very small little tokens, but you can see the symbols on them. Well, you can barely see the symbols on them, but they correlate to the symbols on the actual backpack, and you slide them up and down as you use or supply yourself with different things. Okay, so that is the backpack. This is the Cert Deck. This is I'm going to go through this with you. It's like the objects in this are going to be different types of objects, obviously, as you go through. Hopefully better than your starting objects when you pick them up. But we're going to go through some of the symbols on it here just for clarity. Obviously, this is a melee weapon. This letter, or this -1, relates to the peculiarity of the object itself. This will come into a later video when we explain how you search for weapons, and this plays into that as a modifier. The place here, this is how much space it takes up in a backpack. You can use it in one hand, obviously. Down here you have can be used as a trapping weapon. So this is there's a little trap here. It can be used in conjunction with a trap, which we will go through later on again. This is the value, the supply value it has. It's obviously as well a piercing weapon, and this green symbol down here that looks like sound is exactly that. It is a quiet weapon. When it's a green sound, it is quiet, it doesn't make any noise, so you're good to go. And then you can see here, as you roll your dice for strength, the value that you get and the damage that you do with regard to this weapon. We'll compare that to something like the Remington, which again, this is a ranged weapon with the peculiarity of -2. Obviously this takes up a bit more space. It uses bullets. It has 2 hands. It does 2 damage when you follow the instructions here. But again, this is down here we have 5 for its value, its supplier value, and down here we have the noise that it makes. This is a red noise symbol, so this is going to make noise. And as you know, and everybody else knows, when you're playing a zombie game, noise is not a good thing. That's just an example of a couple of the different types of search cards that you can get, and hopefully that will help you out. So that's the start of the videos with relation to Day Night Z. We've touched on the player boards, we've touched on the backpacks, we've touched on the objects that you're going to pick up during the game. We've touched on the starting items and how you set up your player board, and into some of the symbols and all that you're going to see throughout this game, and how they're going to play in to something like trapping, or when you're using objects or stuff like that. We're going to go into much more detail, and we're going to go see some of the intricacies of this game. I think it's very intriguing so far, and if you want to see more, come back and we'll show you some more videos. But also on top of that, you can leave some comments down in the comment section, or questions even, asking for specific things that you might have seen in these videos and you're looking for some clarity. There is one thing I would like to clarify right now, that this here on the board, this is just an important thing. This is the value of the consumable that he has to consume in order to do something, which we will touch on later on. That's the only part of the board that we hadn't touched on in the main thing. But as I say, if you have some questions on what we've discussed, or this is a very long video in many parts, you can leave it down in the comment section of any of the videos that they relate to, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Let's see it the next time.